Om Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us today. We seek the blessings of Radha Shyam Sundar, Radha Madhav, Krishna Balaram, Gaunitai, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, the assembled devotees, so that we continue with chapter 6 of Canto number 12. And if devotees recall, we did part 1 a few days ago. And this chapter is about Maharaj Parikshit passing away, leaving this material world, going back to the spiritual world after receiving amazing instructions from Sukadev Goswami, and popularly known as Srimad Bhagavatam Puran. So technically the Bhagavad Puran is finished, but we continue because Sutta Goswami continues describing the Vedic literatures, sources of Vedic literature, and how they were split by Vyasadev. So let's carry on from there. So this is from verse number 30 onwards. Sutta Goswami explains to Shaunak Rishi and the sages at Naimisharanya that there exists a supreme reality in which Maya cannot fearlessly dominate. So there's an inferior reality where Maya can dominate. There, in the spiritual reality, the true students of spiritual science engage in spiritual investigation. In that supreme reality, there is no manifestation of the material mind, which functions in terms of alternating decision and doubt. We call it FUD. FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is what the material world is all about. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Furthermore, in that supreme reality, there is no conditioned spirit. That means there's no soul who is trapped in the material way of life and covered by false ego and the three modes of eternal nature. One who is wise should therefore stop the waves of material life and enjoy within that supreme truth. Those who desire to give up all that is not essentially real offer their love exclusively to the Supreme Lord. So we know this material world is not real. It will end. We will change our position, our situation. So in that sense, it's not real because it's temporary. So why not exclusively give ourselves to the Lord, at least for one life? Check it out. One should tolerate insults and show proper respect to any person. Avoid identification with the material body, avoiding identification with material. One should not create enmity with anyone. So very, very nice instructions by Sutta Goswami. And then Shaunak Rishi, who is the recipient on behalf of the sages at Naimisharanya, who is sort of representing the sages. He asks about those who spoke the Vedas. He said, please narrate to us how Paila and other greatly intelligent disciples of Srila Vyasadeva, who are known as the standard authorities of Vedic wisdom, spoke and edited the Vedas. Thereafter, Sutta Goswami, in response to the questions from Shaunak Rishi, described the divisions of the Vedas. So, originally Vedas was one, but then Vyasadeva split it because of Kali Yuga. From the heart of the topmost demigod, Brahma, came the subtle transcendental vibration. And from this subtle sound vibration arose the syllable Om, composed of 3 sounds, greatly potent and self-luminous. Omkar exhibits the 3 original sounds of the alphabet. Om. It is a representation of the absolute truth in all 3 of his phases, the Supreme Personality, the Super Soul, and the impersonal Brahman, Brahma Jyoti. The entire expansion of Vedic sound is elaborated from Omkar. From that Omkar, Lord Brahma created all the sounds of the alphabet, the vowels, the consonants, semi-vows, sibilants, and others. Using this Omkar Lord Brahma created the original Vedas and taught them to his sons Marichi and others, who were all saintly leaders of the Brahman community. So you can see the importance of Om. Really amazing, really amazing. This body of Vedic knowledge was handed down through the disciplic succession of spiritual masters until the end of Dwapara Yuga. So it was one scripture, one Vedic knowledge. Observing that people in general were diminished in their lifespan, strength, and intelligence by the influence of time, the Almighty Lord appeared as Krishna Daipanaya Vyas and divided the one Vedas into 4. Vyasdev called 4 of his disciples, O Brahman, and entrusted to each of them one of these 4 Samhitas. The Rig Veda he gave to Paila and gave this collection the name Bhavracha. Yajurveda he gave to Vaishampanaya with the collection of mantras named Nigada. Samaveda mantras designated as Chandoga Samhita to Jaimini. Jaimini is one of the Saptarishis as well. Atharva Veda to his dear disciple Sumantu. These various Samhitas of the Rig Vedas were manifest through reciprocal succession by these saintly Brahmins. So then, once Yajnavalkya, one of the disciples of Vaishampanaya, so Vaishampanaya is Yajurveda, so one of his sons, who had taught the mantras of the Yajurveda, insulted his godbrothers, his Guru Bhai. He was then rejected. He insulted them by saying to them that they were not so learned. He was more learned than they were. He had more mantras than they did. He was then rejected by his spiritual master and had to give up all the Vedic mantras he had received from his guru. The assembled devotees, disciples, and assumed the form of partridges and picked the mantras from the Yajurveda. These divisions of the Yajurveda therefore became known as the most beautiful Taittiriya Samhita, the hymns collected by partridges. Taittiriya. So that's quite interesting. So in the meantime, Yajnavalkya worshipped Suryadev, desiring to find out new Yajur mantras unknown to even his spiritual master. So his prayers were as follows. I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord appearing as the sun. So this is an important factor to understand, that Suryadev actually represents Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord appears as Suryadev. So this is quite interesting. You are present as a controller of the 4 kinds of living entities, beginning from Brahma, extending down to the blade of grass. You exist within the hearts of all as super soul and outside in the form of time. You are never covered by any false material designation. By the flow of years, you alone maintain this world, drying up the waters, giving them back as rain. You are the chief of all the demigods. Prayers are offered to you 3 times daily according to the Vedic method. So that's the Gayatri mantra that is offered to Suryadev. Consequently, you burn away all sinful activities as well as the suffering and even the original seed of desire. You are personally present as the indwelling Lord in the heart of all beings. You raise up the sleeping people of the world with the gift of sight. If there was no sun, we would struggle in this world. There's some places in this world, like some distant parts of Norway and Sweden, where sunlight appears for 1 hour a day sometimes in the winter and 23 hours in the summer. we're really fortunate to live in countries where sun rises, sets at reasonable times. Thus, you are most magnanimous. You travel about everywhere, spreading fear amongst the unholy. I hope to receive from you mantras of the Yajur Ved unknown to anyone else. So that was his desire. Satisfied by such glorification, the powerful sun god assumed the form of a horse and presented to the sage Yajnavalkya Yajur mantras previously unknown in human society. From these countless hundreds of mantras of the Yajur Ved, the powerful sage compiled 15 new branches of Vedic literature. These became known as the Vajasaniya Samhita because they were produced from the hair of the horse's mane, and they were accepted in disciplic succession by the followers of Kanva, Mandhyandina, and other rishis. So that's an interesting sort of twist to the original Vedas, how more samhitas were added by this amazing devotee, Yajnavalkya. So Sutta Goswami describes to Sri Shonak how the sages passed the Vedas to their disciples through the line of disciplic succession. So that's going to be next chapter. So that's the end of chapter 6 of Canto 12. Any questions? Any comments?
Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yeah, the Vedas that he produced from the sun god that gave him the new Vedas, Vyajavesta Vedas. Is that much known about it? Because we only know about the
It's part of the Yajur Ved, but I think the vast majority of Vedic scriptures has been lost. The vast majority. So we're talking about billions of verses, but hardly there are maybe 20, 30, 40, 50,000 of these verses remaining. And even those are very hard to assimilate in Kali Yuga. Very difficult for us because the standard of knowledge in the Vedas is high, although they do focus on the worship of devatas more. It's to inspire people to worship at least somebody. So at least worship the devatas, if nobody else. So in many ways, because we got the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like a literal expansion of the Vedas. It already gives us the essence of the Vedas. So we're very fortunate. We don't need to worry about the Vedas actually, because we got the Bhagavatam, which is even more superior to the Vedas.
So those Brahmins and Rishis in those ages ago must be so clever to remember all these difficult verses, pass them down, but eventually through the disciplinic succession, it was lost, isn't it?
Yes. They wrote it down, but eventually, the guru disciple relationship at some point breaks down. The interest in spiritual life is less as time goes on, and perhaps the disciple is not strong enough to continue with the traditions of, the Vedic traditions or the guru parampara. So it can get lost, unfortunately. And then the Lord always sends somebody to reestablish, reconnect, like he did through the 4 sampradayas. Somebody comes, like Prabhupada, he came and reconnected us, So, but yeah, it's the way of time destroys everything, especially in this material world. Time destroys everything. Nothing good can last. Nothing bad can last either. So. Is that okay, Naniman?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Anything else? So let's stop there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.